Two workers are still missing after a series of explosions ripped through a petrochemical storage facility in Mont Belvieu. I'm Sheriff Fryer, live in Mont Belvieu. I'll have complete reports of the explosions and the evacuations of hundreds of people.
I'm Deborah Wrigley, and I'll have a look at the evacuees of Mont Belvieu next on Live at 5.
And it is election day in our city, and in the final hours, both mayoral candidates are remaining confident of a victory tonight.
I'm Tom Dickerson at the Westin Galleria, where supporters of Mayor Kathy Whitmire are preparing for a party, a victory party. I'll have a live report.
And I'm Jim Rosenfield at the Hyatt Hotel downtown, where Louis Welch and his supporters hope this will be the scene of a victory celebration. I'll have that story today on Live at 5.
You're watching Channel 13, KTRK-TV, Houston. Live at 5 with Bob Boudreau, Sheriff Fryer, Bob Allen has sports, and Ed Brandon with the weather. Now, Live at 5.
I'm worried about my buddies and everything.
And two people are still missing this afternoon after a series of explosions rocked the Chambers County town of Mont Belvieu. As you see, flames leapt up to 800 feet in the air this morning, and for hours, fire department crews were unable to get close enough to try to fight that fire. Good day, everyone. Welcome to Live at 5, and it has been quite a news day. Lead stories you see taking place over in Mont Belvieu, where Sheriff Fryer is live right now with the latest on the situation from the scene of the explosion. Sheriff, what's going on?
Bob, it's just something seeing those flames behind your shoulder that way, because they were some 600 feet in the air this morning. The situation has improved vastly since then. Let's first say, though, two people still are missing. They are workers. They were contract workers. They weren't employees of Warren Petroleum Company. They were contracting out with Smalley Welding Company. Mr. Smalley himself is still inside the facility, and we have not been able to talk to him. Chevron spokesman, which is the parent company of Warren Petroleum, refused to give us a yay or nay on the fate of those two missing people. So at this point, officially, those two workers are still missing. As you can see over my shoulder, though, the situation has improved vastly here. The flames are still burning, maybe about 10-15 feet in the air, but basically that is residual gas from the ruptured pipeline, which was the start of this whole mess today. The valves that were allowing gas to come up from an underground salt dome were reached around 2:30 this afternoon after authorities had put enough water on the flames to cool things down a little bit, and when they shut off those valves, basically the major danger had passed by then. Of course, it's difficult to see a whole lot from where we're standing here, so let's go up to Sky Eye 13, where Sylvan Rodriguez took a better look.
Well, we're flying in Sky Eye right now, some 300 feet above the fire. As you look down, you can see that some of the fires continue to burn. Quite a lot of water is being poured on the central core of that fire. That's where most of the damage occurred to the pipelines. You can see them melted in pieces on the ground. Over to the left, you see the parking lot where more than a dozen cars caught fire, exploded, and burned. Near that is the main office building, which is badly charred from behind. And just to the north of the central main office are many temporary buildings. Apparently, they caught fire and melted from the intense heat. There are no roofs on some of them. Some of them have no walls. There is debris everywhere. As we look down, we can see firefighters continuing to pour water even to the far back of the plant itself. And once again, there in the back, several of those buildings simply melted to the ground. As far as the extent of damage, we have no monetary estimate yet. It is thought to be in the millions of dollars. However, it will be days before plant officials can get close enough to give an accurate damage. Back to you.
Thank you, Sylvan. In fact, a Chevron spokesman did tell me this afternoon millions and millions of dollars and probably at least 2 weeks before the damage could be repaired. But he said only about 10% of the plant has actually been damaged. But unfortunately, it's to some of the fuels that are needed by several petrochemical industries in this area, so the impact of the explosion and the fire is going to be felt not just by Chevron and Warren Petroleum, but several other companies here in the Houston area as well. Of course, Sylvan was the first reporter on the scene today when the explosion took place around 8:30. Our Don Cobos followed very closely on his heels, and he has this explanation of what happened.
The smoke from this gas fire could be seen from downtown Houston some 25 miles away. But it was the 700 to 800 foot flames that demonstrated the potential danger to those in the immediate area. Apparently, one of the many gas pipelines on the Warren Petroleum property was ruptured around 8:45 this morning. No one is sure how the pipe ruptured, but company officials did say that a backhoe loader was working in the area where the explosion took place. Later in the day, a representative of Chevron Oil, which owns Warren Petroleum, said that a crew from Smalley Construction Company was refitting pipe and that a spark from a torch might have ignited the series of explosions. Leon Jones was on the property when the explosions took place.
You know, we seen the gas come across, and he told us to shut off the compressor and stuff. So we did. By the time we turned around, we headed out and stuff. Well, that when it exploded.
Leon Earnhardt was inside the Warren office building at the time.
I ran through the south end of the building to get all the girls, the clerks, in other words, and people out to spread the word there was a gas leak. I'm worried about my buddies and everything. I have a lot of friends I work with there, contract people especially.
Cull Ingram says that 2 independent construction workers were still unaccounted for. Ingram said the potential for danger throughout the day was enormous.
There is a potential problem as long as the heat continues at the rate it has. In fact, a small building off to the left of the main fire just caught on.
20 gas valves, which control various kinds of gas on the property, including LPG, butane, and propane gases, were turned off after 3 hours, reducing the flame. But because of the intense heat, 5 other valves were left open. Finally, some 6 hours after the first explosion, firefighters were able to turn off the last few gas valves that were left burning. Don Cobos, Eyewitness News, Mont Belvieu.
The mayor of Mont Belvieu, Fred Miller, ordered the evacuation of the entire town, some 1,762 people this morning when all of this took place. You can see just over my shoulder a line of cars now, and they're being stopped at a checkpoint, but they are being allowed basically to get back into Mont Belvieu. And I can look ahead of me about a mile down the road back to Interstate 10, and the cars are backed up as far as they can go. The mayor was supposed to have been here at 5 o'clock to tell us whether he had lifted the evacuation order. I assume that he has done so now, but Deborah Wrigley has been standing by at the one of the evacuation centers that was set up today, and maybe she can tell me a little bit more. Deborah?
Sure, that is at the Cedar Bio Baptist Church, and the Red Cross is still operating this disaster center, which now holds about 20 people or so. And organizers say it will continue to serve as long as there are people in need. There is apparently some confusion while local police told us a few minutes ago that Mont Belvieu is in the process of being reopened to the public. Some residents are being kept out as they prepare to return home from work. Within the past 30 minutes, one family has come to this center to wait until they can make that trip home. An anxious wait for many who live in this town that has stood under an evacuation order throughout the day. They walked down Highway 146 in groups. Some carried enough to make it through the day, others nothing at all. But everyone shared one thing in common. They were all Mont Belvieu evacuees. The small town atop the gas storage dome was officially evacuated just before 9 this morning. But many residents began leaving before the order came.
It looked to me like it was getting pretty bad. And I figured something where the explosions were happening that